When most people switch to Linux from Windows, they'll usually switch to something like Mint, Ubuntu, Debian, or even something like Manjaro. But I decided to jump straight into Arch. Why is that? Let's find out. So when I first considered switching to Linux, maybe a year or so ago, I actually was considering switching to Ubuntu. Or maybe it was Mint. One of the two. I know they were both on my radar. But I think the problem that happened was that I kept putting it off, and just every time that I went to switch, what I wanted to switch to changed, but then I would just put it off again. So I would keep watching more and more Linux videos and learning more and more about what you can do. And then eventually I ran into channels like Luke Smith and DistroTube. And from there, I discovered that Arch doesn't hold your hand in anything. You can do whatever you want with it. And I decided from there that, hey, maybe I should give Arch a try. And then I put it off for a while again. And after putting it off again, I kept learning more about Linux and more about all the cool stuff that I could do. I started learning about i3, I started learning about Ranger, Transmission, like all these cool programs that you can run on Linux. And I realized that there's no reason for me to be running something like Ubuntu, because now that I'm interested in i3, I might as well just run something way lighter and just scrap all of that, get onto like Arch, and just run what I want to run and not have the operating system try to recommend me anything. Obviously Ubuntu and things like that are probably a great starting point for most people, but I already had a lot of this programmer background knowledge, so it's not like I'm jumping straight into a really technical operating system, not even understanding what the terminal is. Like, I already had a lot of this basic knowledge, but I think that with Arch, I can just get so much more done, and I don't really have to think about the operating system per se. Like, when I want to do something, say I don't know how to do something with Transmission, I can directly look up Transmission and whatever my problem is. But with something more pre-packaged like Ubuntu or Mint, you're still in that Windows mindset where if you want to know the solution to a problem, you look up Ubuntu this problem, Mint this problem. And I think that once you start understanding more about how your system works, you start looking up more directed queries. And I think Arch definitely helps with that, because with Arch you know what you're installing on your system, or at least I hope you do, unless you're using someone's pre-packaged installer, like you're using Labs or something like that, and you're just pulling down someone else's setup for Arch and you don't really want to think about it yourself. So to wrap everything up, I think basically the reason I decided to switch to Arch over anything else as my first distro is because Arch just doesn't get in your way with anything. When you install it, if you haven't installed it yourself, it just drops you into a TTY and then says, go, do whatever you want. And I kind of wanted that because I just wanted to be able to install what I wanted to install, but I also didn't want to have that struggle of doing something like Linux from scratch. Obviously, if I wanted to have every little piece be exactly the way that I wanted it to be, I could have done that, but there's only so much time in the day, and Arch, I think, is probably a really good middle ground between doing it entirely by yourself and then having a prepackaged distro like Ubuntu where you just select your desktop environment and everything is installed from there. You don't really need to think about your network manager, your display manager, a compositor, anything like that. Arch definitely gives you a good middle ground between the two extremes where you don't actually have to worry about your basic fundamental stuff to the operating system. Like, I don't particularly want to be thinking about stuff that is core to the operating system that I know has to be there. I'd rather worry about what window manager do I want to use, what network manager do I want to use, things that actually matter to me. So yeah, I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover in this video. If you like this video, remember to like and subscribe and hit the little bell icon below if you want to see more from my channel. And yeah, I reckon that's it. So I'm out.